Hi, I wanted to welcome you to the Divorce Planning Podcast. I'm Carri Goldring, and I'm in the mortgage business, and I do planning pre-divorce for people who are either going to refinance their home, do an equity buyout, or plan to purchase a new home and make sure that everything in the divorce decree is worded properly and the numbers in the planning is taken care of so that you can go through the underwriting process smoothly. And I would like to introduce you to other people who are interested in the divorce planning process so you can get a real education of what's involved. Hope you enjoy. Hi, today I want to welcome Matt Kobliska with us, who is a family law attorney. And Matt has been doing a lot of speaking engagements about cryptocurrency, which seems to be somewhat of a new topic and not something that everybody understands. So Matt, I wanted to welcome you and let you introduce yourself.
Thank you, Carri. I'm a listener of your podcast as well, so I'm doubly honored to be here and talk today. I'm a domestic relations attorney and also a domestic relations mediator, and it's in my role as mediator that I really came to discover the prevalence of cryptocurrency and how little not only I knew about it, but how little practitioners knew about it. People would have all kinds of documentation regarding financial assets, but when it came to crypto, somebody would just hold up their phone and point to it, and everybody seemed to kind of accept what it said there. So it was obvious to me that I didn't know enough, and it was obvious that attorneys didn't know enough about this to be able to really get a handle on cryptocurrency being a portion of the marital estate, or how to value it, or any of those sorts of things. So it's impossible to really talk about crypto without having some basic understanding about, what it is. And of course, we really get into conversations about what is money, really. But in terms of digital currency, you have it now, right? If you were to take the money out of your wallet, I'm guessing that's not the sum total of your net worth. You have checking accounts, you have savings accounts, you have 401ks and IRAs. All of these are digital currency. In other words, they are simply ones and zeros on a computer of your bank, which is probably backed up through AWS or a company called Digital Realty, which you probably never heard of. But again, it exists only in the digital world. But when we talk of digital currency, a lot of times people think of Bitcoin and other forms of cryptocurrency. And I'm going to speak about Bitcoin primarily because that was the first digital currency in the manner that we're speaking of here today, cryptocurrency. But it's still the largest as well. So there have been others that have come along that have different bells and whistles and some additional functionality, but we're going to focus on Bitcoin for just ease of use. To give you some understanding, there's over $1 trillion invested in Bitcoin today, and over 10% of the world population has engaged in a Bitcoin transaction. And that's a pretty astounding number when you understand that almost half of the worldwide population cooks their daily meals over a solid fuel stove, wood or coal burning or charcoal burning stove. So it's out there. And when I talk with attorneys who do a high volume of business, they'll sometimes say, well, I've never had a case that had cryptocurrency. And in my mind, I'm thinking, well, you did, you just didn't know, right? Bitcoin was not intended to be a place to store hidden value. In fact, the Bitcoin ledger is public. If you have someone's public key, you could look up and see every transaction that they've ever made. It's out there on the web, and of course, for obvious reasons, it wouldn't be identified by name. You would not put your checking account in a public register for obvious reasons, and you wouldn't do so with a cryptocurrency either. But it was intended to sort of bypass the the grift, I think, that the big banks are running whenever you engage in a transaction, a credit card, debit card, transaction, they're getting a cut of it going each way. International transactions more so. But the original purpose of it was simply to be able to allow two people to transact or transfer money between them without big banks getting a cut of it. It has essentially evolved. It was never intended to be an investment vehicle either, but it essentially evolved into an investment vehicle on top of it. So there are a couple of basic concerns or basic concepts that I think lawyers and divorcing parties need to understand, be able to understand crypto. And I've kind of whittled these down to the very minimum. I'm kind of speaking in general terms. There are much more to say about a number of these topics, but there's just insufficient time to do that. The blockchain is the foundation of almost all cryptocurrencies. So this is a public ledger that's online, and it's a distributed network. So there are many nodes throughout the world, thousands of nodes throughout the world that maintain this ledger. And transactions are recorded in a block, and then these blocks are chained together. And these blocks cannot be changed. They cannot be altered. In addition to that, every person who engages in a Bitcoin transaction must have a wallet, and wallets contain different forms. They can look like a USB drive that you would put into your computer. They can look like a kind of a credit card, a thick credit card. They can simply be an app on your phone. And in fact, you probably have a Bitcoin wallet on your phone right now. If you have either Zelle or Venmo, you see at the very bottom of the Venmo app, you can see buy cryptocurrency. You can make Bitcoin transactions at any number of different retailers, Burger King, Home Depot, AT&T, all of these companies, Papa John's, of course.
Matt, let me ask you a question about that. So some people have started using like Apple Pay, where you tap your phone and you're basically putting $5 in Apple Pay, and now you have $5. So if someone's buying cryptocurrency, are you really just purchasing another form of payment, sort of like your Apple Pay, where you would say, okay, I want $1,000 of Bitcoin, so now I have $1,000 of Bitcoin?
Yes, I mean that's essentially correct. I think the difference is if you're traveling to Europe, for example, cryptocurrency is immediately available, whereas some other transactions may not, unless you're with a big bank.
And are you tapping your phone at Papa John's and say, yep. Okay, so it's the same kind of system.
Mm-hmm. Probably the most important concept to understand with regard to cryptocurrency is what's called an exchange. So an exchange is, I mean, there still has to be an intermediary between you and the Bitcoin network. And that intermediary can have a very light touch, or you could operate with an exchange that invests in Bitcoin, but you don't have the keys. And there are two keys. I mentioned that there's a public key, which is a pretty long number, 34 characters of numbers and letters that make up the public key. You could put that on the web. You could do whatever, and your assets are not at risk. But you also have a private key that could be 65 characters long. It's a little bit longer number, but that's the key to the candy store there. With that key, you could withdraw money or whatever the case may be. Advantages to be the holder of that key. There are also some disadvantages to being the holder of that key. One of which is if you lose that key, if you lose that big long number, you've lost your investment. Plain and simple.
What about inheritance? That could get a little tricky too, right?
Well, and that's why in a divorce case, someone may want to hide their key. However, you don't want to hide it too much, right? I mean, ultimately, you want someone to receive your estate, even if you were going to do so in an underhanded fashion. You'd still want to leave this number accessible by someone, right? So this number could be written down on a piece of paper and put in an envelope in the back of a drawer. It could be in a safe deposit box. It could be in any number of different places. You'd say, well, that seems like a very low-tech way of doing something. Why wouldn't you just keep it on your computer? Well, your computer could be hacked. You know, there are data breaches all the time. So,
right? You could break, you could forget about it.
so you can buy crypto through Schwab. You could buy crypto through UBS or any of the large brokerage houses, but you don't have the key. And this is where when crypto really exploded, there were the appearance of a lot of people who wanted to get into the exchange business. So people would invest money with them, and many of them claimed to own dollar for dollar that amount of cryptocurrency, right? But there's no real money in that, and the money is the same way Bernie Madoff and Sam Bankman-Fried made their money, which is to take other people's money and spend it and claim that it was invested in some hard asset. And so there were a lot of money, there were a lot of people that lost money investing in Sam Bankman-Fried's exchange because although they said they were invested dollar for dollar, they were not. And of course, he's in jail. So, the safer way to go is to actually have your own key. That way, you're not relying upon anyone else doing so for you, and cleaning out your bank account.
And I'd have to imagine if you're using a brokerage firm, they have to be taking some kind of commission or doing something, right? Which is
yes,
the opposite of what this whole thing was developed for.
Mm-hmm. Exactly
but
right.
Is there no exchange rate then? So if I have 1,000 Bitcoin and I go to Europe, I still have 1,000 Bitcoin.
Well, I mean, there is a small transaction fee, and that gets it's a fraction of what the big banks charge. That's a deeper discussion involving what are called Bitcoin miners that maintain the system and publish these blocks. So there is a transaction fee, but it's small. There is no understand that there is no Bitcoin in terms of a company, right? There's no company that's earning profits from your transactions. But like I said, Bitcoin is a ledger that's on the web forever. It can't be modified or changed. So there's nobody pulling profits from it. Bitcoin miners, they receive some transaction costs, but the cost of electricity in most developed countries is more than the Bitcoin miners receive to run a bank of computers to do the Bitcoin mining. So again, that's a longer discussion. So what divorcing parties and attorneys should look out for is the same things that we would look out for if we felt that one of the parties was buying gold with cash and storing it away somewhere, right? Money that was in the marital bank account, which has been depleted. Okay, there's an $8,000 withdrawal. Well, where did that go? I mean, that is going to be there as a matter of public record. You can't simply take money and give it to an exchange without there being a paper trail. These exchanges as well may be issued a subpoena. So there are the exchanges that operate within the U.S. all have resident agents, and you can send subpoenas to these exchanges who are required to produce records. Other things to kind of look out for is if there are any transactions in the bank account that have sort of keywords like crypto or bit this or any combination of words coin or crypto or whatever the case may be, those should alert your attention, right? To find out where in fact that money went. So there is on a tax return a line that says, "Did you buy or sell Bitcoin this year?" I'm paraphrasing here, but it doesn't. No, in fact, I think it says, "Did you sell any cryptocurrency this year?" So it really doesn't address the issue of whether someone has Bitcoin, right? Maybe they've had it for 5 years or whatever the case may be. It also doesn't address the issue of buying crypto. Our domestic relations financial information form asks about Bitcoin holdings, but again, that's subject to voluntary disclosure under oath, of course. But if someone is willing to go through the effort to hide money, they're not going to be deterred probably by a checkbox on a domestic relations verified financial information form.
I think those were the main ones, is just getting the concept of what this even is. And I was thinking when I was a little girl, my dad used to do something called trade dollars. I don't know if you ever heard trade dollars. And he would have, I don't know, he'd go get a haircut and he would use 20 trade dollars, and then somebody wants him to do something for them and they would use so many trade dollars, and it was just kind of like another currency on a way smaller scale before computers were even around.
Yeah, I'm much older than you, so I remember the S&H green stamps were
I remember those.
a type of currency. I think another thing for divorcing parties to kind of watch out for is unusual spending. If someone buys some, early investors in Bitcoin made boatloads of money. I mean, literally billionaires were created simply from the rise in the value of Bitcoin. Now it's not like it's not volatile. It goes down in value as quickly as it goes up, and it's kind of all over the map. But one way, to try to find Bitcoin that's not disclosed is purchases which really can't be explained on someone's income, right? They purchased a 6-figure luxury vehicle, and there doesn't seem to be any transaction that matches that within the railroad records. People are pretty quick to brag about their Bitcoin holdings or cryptocurrency holdings and how much they've made. So, sometimes people will tip their hand on that point. Other times they might disclose. It's good to look at loan and mortgage applications, car loan applications in particular. When people want a loan, they want their credit application to be as good as it can be. And they think by adding the value of the cryptocurrencies, it makes for a stronger application. So sometimes they will be disclosed there. But it's a new world. So
it is a new world. And I know from us on the mortgage perspective, we tell everyone they have to turn it into liquid form of cash. We won't take any Bitcoin whatsoever.
Yeah, understandable. I would think that the mortgage industry would probably be a late adopter. Right? Yes. I mean, just because it is so volatile, a lender is not going to say, well, he's got $100,000 in Bitcoin, so we can approve this mortgage. That just due to volatility could drop to $50,000 in a week. Maybe that's over exaggeration, but we've certainly seen it go up and down, and people thought that cryptocurrency was a hedge against inflation. It turned out really not to be true. Over the last 2 years, we've experienced a significant appreciation, and that didn't it didn't move in the opposite direction the way that I think a lot of people thought that it did. But it's gone up significantly in the last year, probably 140% or so.
It's a big deal. I mean, I think at the beginning stages too, a lot of people didn't know if it would catch on or not, right? You know, because everyone's always wondering, is this another fad that's going to go away? Or
In terms of crypto, I don't see it going away anytime soon. What I do anticipate is that the government is not going to want people who have significant tax debts, but money stashed away in Bitcoin. So there's
right,
going to be a way that the government is going to make this more visible, I think, not only to creditors, but to divorcing parties, things of that nature. So I think
makes
there will be some reining in of this hidden part of Bitcoin. But
Mhm.
we'll have to see how that plays out.
Turns out, right? That's a good point. That is a very good point. Well, your knowledge obviously is very extensive, and you've definitely dug into this. There's no doubt about
Yeah,
it.
and there is so much more to say. I hope that people listen to some of the points that I've made and come away with some cogent understanding of the basics, but there's so much more to say and explain here that I've just touched the
Oh,
surface.
sure.
And I
I'm
don't claim
sure.
to be a computer expert or a cryptographer or I see some of the beauty in the way that this is structured, and I can appreciate it, but this is way beyond my ability to understand in more than a basic level. But
I thought you did great. Even just, I wanted people just to kind of get the basic understanding for people who didn't know anything other than they hear the word and they don't really understand what it is. And well, I thank you so much for your time and explaining this. And it was so wonderful. If I have anyone who wants to get a hold of you who might have a divorce case where they need an expert or whatnot, how do they find you?
they can find me at, of course, my office phone number is 248-553-0800. My email address is my first initial and last name, so it's MKOBLISKA at kobliskalaw.com, KOBLISKALAW.com. Or you can just Google my name and you'll find me pretty easily, I think, hopefully.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Well,
But it's been my pleasure, Carrie. Thank you so much for inviting me to talk today.
I hope you enjoyed the podcast. I'm Carri Goldring, and if you ever have any questions regarding mortgage, feel free to give me a call or send me a text message, 248-420-4524. Hope you enjoy the rest of your day.